The solar subclass is very underused in the game right now, but there's still a lot of people who like that subclass. With the nerf to the Ahamkara gauntlets, you might be losing hope, but don't worry, today's solar build has consistent healing, infinite ability spam, which always brings the fun factor to any build, and flexibility, which helps a lot when it comes to higher level content. Before we jump right in, we've made a lot of anti-meta builds in this series, and it's been fun checking through every exotic in the game to find what's useful and fun. Finding these builds is tricky because there are 3 different kinds of builds in this game: meta builds, anti-meta builds, and trash builds. And since the meta builds are everywhere on YouTube and it's clear what those ones are, I just want to make sure that I'm not showing you guys any trash builds. With that said, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of trash exotics in this game, so expect some different content on this YouTube channel moving forward, because there's not always going to be something anti-meta to put out, and if there isn't, I'm going to try to create other content for you guys to enjoy as well, so stay tuned. As far as today though, today is not the day we're going to be switching things up, because I'm going to be breaking down the Solar Hunter subclass and one of my favorite exotic choices for it. There's one very particular thing about Hunters. With Gambler's Dodge, you're able to instantly regenerate your melee by just clicking a button, and no other class in the game can do that. Solar goes one step further though, allowing you to regain your melee ability instantly without even having to dodge, and that's what we're going to be looking into doing today. When it comes to build, I like to prioritize healing, because if you always have to wait for your health to heal up to engage enemies, the game can get boring really quickly. The Solar subclass has 3 ways to heal: the Healing Grenade, Cure, and Restoration. Healing Grenade is pretty much Cure and Restoration combined into one. This sounds like the perfect choice already since it gives you the other 2 options, but let's explain what those other 2 terms are. Cure gives about 60 HP when you get it, while Restoration constantly heals you every time while you have the buff active. Of these 3 options, the ones I like the most are the Healing Grenade and Restoration, because I prefer constant healing rather than just a specific bump to my health, because if I'm in front of an enemy, he could just kill me anyways even though I got that bump of health, but if I keep healing through the damage that I'm taking, then maybe I could survive easier. Before we make a choice though, let's look at what we have to give up to be able to get these options. For the Healing Grenade, you would have to give up using your grenade as an offensive tool, which is a lot since grenades are really good, not even just for ad control, but even DPS as just a little bump while you're doing damage with your weapons. Restoration requires you to use the fragment Ember of Mercy. It gives restoration when you pick up a fire spite, which means you have to use another fragment to make that fire spite. So we'll be giving up 2 fragment slots to be able to use this. For Cure, Ember of Resolve grants Cure on grenade kills. The problem with this is you might not have a grenade at the time you need the heal, or your grenade might not even kill the enemy you're trying to defeat for you to be able to get the heal and you're just dead. So for me, Cure is just not worth it. I just wanted to point out why. So out of all these options, I ended up with Restoration for this build. So this way we keep our grenade and we also get that consistent healing I talked about. For aspects, I use Knock Him Down because this is what gives you your melee back instantly, while your Radiant, throwing knife final blows, fully refunds your melee energy. This requires us to be Radiant, so I use Ember of Torches. It makes you Radiant when you attack enemies with powered melee attacks. Radiant gives increase in weapon damage while you have it, so that's also pretty useful for just playing the game. I also talked about Ember of Mercy earlier, which gives us restoration, but to get the fire spite, I use Ember of Searing, which gives melee energy and creates a fire spite on final blows on scorched targets. I use Firebolt Grenade to spice things up here. You could pretty much use any grenade that you want, but I use it because it scorches multiple targets at a time, especially if they're spread out. But use any grenade that you want, all the grenades have some form of scorch on the enemies, and that's what's important here. The other 2 fragments for the build are Singeing and Empyrean. Singeing allows your class ability regen faster when you scorch targets. This way we get multiple benefits from our scorch. Empyrean extends the duration of our Radiant and Restoration buffs when we get solar weapon or ability final blows. The reason we're able to use so many fragments, 5 to be exact, is because we also use the aspect On Your Mark, mainly because it provides 3 fragment slots, but it also grants increased handling and reload speed with precision final blows or class ability use. Okay, future me here, I've been using this build extensively for a while now, and I've realized that keeping the restoration buff up is really tricky because when you pick up a fire spite, the restoration only lasts for about 2 seconds and it's gone, which makes it really hard to be able to stack it up with Empyrean. So I took off the Empyrean fragment and switched that with the Ember of Solace instead, which increases how long your restoration is once you pick up that fire spite. I believe that works a lot better and it'll make the build more fun for you guys. Also, with the last patch, there's a bug with the firebolt grenade which doesn't allow it to actually hit as many targets as are within its circle. So like I said before, use any grenade that you like the most and have fun with the build. I went through a bunch of exotic options for this build. However, since our melee is so important, I couldn't pass up the Ophidia Spathe. It gives an additional melee charge. This way, if you miss your melee somehow, you have an additional melee. You also have your Gambler's Dodge, which when you're close to enemies and you dodge, it fully refunds your melee energy. With this exotic, it actually gives you both your melee charges, so you have a total of 4 melee charges that you can use, so hopefully you don't miss all 4. For exotic weapons, there are just too many you can use. This is where the flexibility comes in because you could use your favorite solar exotic or the most useful solar exotic or whatever high level content that you're doing. For me, I decided to use Sunshot because since it got buffed, I've been dying to try it out. You could also use Prometheus Lens because that's a great option for this build as it also applies Scorch, but you could use any solar exotic or any legendary weapon that has incandescent on it. For start distribution for hunters, it's usually a toss-up between mobility, resilience, discipline, or resilience, recovery, discipline. With this build, since Scorch charges our class ability really quickly, I'll go with the resilience, recovery, and discipline option. It gives major survivability in addition to the restoration buff we get. And I've already mentioned how valuable grenades are, plus it's an easy pick since the other 2 choices in the bottom half just suck. Here are all the mods for the build today. You could pause and take a screenshot, or you could use the dim link. I left one in the description below. I'll explain the mods you need to understand to be able to use this build effectively though. I know this build is more focused on the melee, but you also get your grenade really quickly due to the fire spites that you make and specific mods that we'll be using here. Grenade Kickstart returns grenade energy every time you use it based on the amount of armor charges that you have. Heavy-handed generates orbs of power on melee final blows, which you could pick up to get the armor charges that you need. I also use Powerful Attraction, which automatically picks up all nearby orbs of power when you use your class ability. So enjoy your infinite melees with this hunter build, but if you're a Titan or Warlock main and would like to see builds for your favorite subclass, check this other build videos. Konibaja on Padimi.